see how it looks on the live feed. Okay, go that there, save that. Okay, looks like it's running. Okay, go that there, save that. Cool, right. Now, I will admit it looks a bit weird. The way you can see there's a video running on the left. Okay. And the me on the bottom right. Because I'm in the clip, as you can see in the video. That video I'm showing you, as you can see there, is that in fact the videos I was doing, the streams I was doing at the time with my dopey beard. It's gone the opposite direction now. Well, the hair's gone as well, yeah. That's up since about 4 or 5, I think 3-4 years ago maybe. And the time during COVID, the article now says 2021, so yeah, that's in the year 2021 October. I did a lot of streams on COVID. You know, for articles, I'll just skip past some that I'll put on mute because the sound will be a bit awkward. Tweets there, some data I was looking at, spreadsheets I produced myself. You know, I did this all on my own. And yeah, it was quite something, quite an experience. Goes to diagnosis, discharge from hospitals, admissions, diagnosis, discharges, vaccines given, looking at data closely, giving my thoughts about it. This actual data you see in the spreadsheet there, with the colouring there, that's actually my own work. You know, I did a lot of time on COVID. I'm not an expert in COVID, obviously, I'm not claiming to be one at all. But the reason I did it is because obviously, number one, we're mostly back in our own homes during lockdown. And two, just out of curiosity, seeing what was really happening. And this kind of thing here, you can see in the Excel sheet there, not too well because it's a bit spread out. Occupied by patients, COVID, non-COVID. Increase of patients from previous day, occupied by confirmed COVID-19 patients. Increase of patients from previous day, COVID-19 percentage as well. You know, that's just me looking at raw data given to us and giving my take on it. There's a lot of streams on this. And eventually when things started to calm down a little bit, it all ended. So yeah, I'm only sharing a video to give you all like an idea as to what I was dealing with myself back then, amongst quite a few of you out there as well. I was not like a top level person doing it, obviously, just a regular guy. There were people out there who drill down the data even more and probably gave better takes in terms of what they saw. So, but for me, it was actually it was a big lesson learned from all that. We all experienced it. And of course, now you come up with these inquiries, which are a complete waste of time, because nothing's going to happen. UK did too little too late, leading to thousands more COVID deaths, said inquiry. And of course, you know, the media like this because they haven't talked about Starmer, they haven't talked about Rachel Reeves anymore, right? The economy is an absolute mess. This is the number one priority right now. Now, obviously I want justice for something like this, but that's not going to happen. It'll be the same as people in America asking for justice for Epstein. It ain't going to happen. We're just wasting our time. The lesson we have to learn from all this to make sure it doesn't happen again. They don't get away with it again. That's the big lesson. They're saying we could have prevented about 20 or so thousand deaths. That's just nonsense. You can never make that determination based on information you have. Oh, they didn't lock down early enough. No, they did. By which time we don't know what the hell we're dealing with. The only real big mistakes the government made, apart from obviously shutting down the country, was that they didn't actually stop people from coming into the country who may well be infected. It didn't make any sense for that to happen. I mean, Boris Johnson himself almost died as well, which would have been quite an event. Thankfully, he didn't. Fewer thousand deaths. Well, no, because people saying people died with COVID is something which they keep forgetting about. As I was demonstrating in the charts I had on the spreadsheet showing that video earlier, was that people who died with COVID, then doesn't mean they actually died of COVID. They forget this. They include that information, that totals included, until people start asking questions about, well, what's going on here? The media, again, the reason why I'm going for this is because they need to try and protect Labour at all costs, because they were going through absolute hell right now. We know that when the budget comes out, that'll be obviously big news when it does. You got Shabana Mahmood make her own premiership bid to become leader of the Labour Party and become Prime Minister. I mean, it's pretty obvious what she's doing. Wes Streeting is quite silent in all of it. And then you've got Andy Burnham, who's, occasionally giving some vibes that he might be interested in going for it. And, the news came out saying how the economy is stable and we may see interest rates go down, which doesn't add up because inflation is still very high. Inflation for food has gone up. People forget this. Inflation for food has gone up again. If you live in London, for those who don't know, I don't actually live in London, but I actually go to work in London, unfortunately, is that you've got things like, I think it was at Waterloo Station, obviously this is an exception, but let's just go for it. And at Marks and Spencer food shop hall, they have a tiny one. It's like get a meal deal, I think, for £6.50 or something like that. I mean, these things cost like £3 before. So why are Labour saying they're doing a good job in the economy? I have no idea. Electricity costs are still high. Food prices are still high. Despite celebrating the fact that the interest rates might come down to make it easier to get a house, like to buy one yourself or a flat, is ludicrous because the prices are still too high as well. And we're being ripped off on it. This country is just a rip-off as a whole. The cost of trains. Now, what I don't understand is during rush hour, why South Western Railway have a train running with only 5 cars in it. And we're paying extortionate fees for that. So, forget Labour for a second, or Tories, or Reform on that. Just as a whole in this country, everything's a rip-off. Everything. And the media just play along with it because bad news is good news for them, of course. And they want to run the show. These people who are these television pundits or these political experts or so-called experts who come out and say things like, well, I was there when it happened. That's what they kind of want. Then you had the sit-down interviews with Rachel Reeves recently. There's quite a lot. They do this kind of like press thing to improve her image. You see them quite often. One little thing they buy like a motorway some months ago. Sky News, that idiot that keeps appearing and showing his charts all the time on TV. Then you've got I forget her name now. But there's so many idiots on Sky News, unfortunately. Not all of them, but some of them, who were interviewing Shabana Mahmood to give her a chance to kind of give her kind of pitch to the voters out there. That's exactly what it was. It wasn't anything to do with her policies because the policies would not work. And it's not because I don't want them to work. If she's actually doing something right, then yeah, sure, I'm all for it. By all means. Right? We shouldn't be against it. We want the government to succeed. But Shabana Mahmood's proposals are not going to change anything when it comes to benefits. You have to put these through first in order for it to happen. Then it's challenges when it all occurs. And you're not deploying anybody. And of course, on top of that, everything else that happened. This is a story that came out today. If I can get on my screen, it'll be helpful. I can just talk about it briefly. So you've got, you see the kind of two stories I'm going to produce here, so I'll just go for this one first. So Shabana Mahmood appearing, you can see on the screen. Legal migrants arrived in the UK from 2021 face a long wait for settled status under tough new proposals. She fears that Great Britain could give way to Little England without changing the immigration system. So this is why I keep telling people, and I said this time and time again, to my fellow reformers, time and time again to people who are advanced UK and everybody else, they are mocking you when they say all this stuff. When they wave the flag and say, hey, I'm patriotic, they're mocking you for that. Oh, we're going to have the grooming gang inquiry because we should need to get justice for these girls. They're mocking you for that as well. Alright? They put these proposals through, they're mocking you. They're not going to go through with it. They know it's not going to work. The boats will still come. That's not going to change. Alright? They want to make all these changes to the system. Right? Now, look at this. Setting out her plans in the comments, Ms. Mahmood says settling in the UK was not a right but a privilege and must be earned. So why didn't they say it before? Why wasn't this their theme before? Once they got power, they didn't say it. Now their power's under threat, they'll come out and say all the right things. Guess who else did this, by the way? The Tory party did. And there are people out there who still believe the lies from the Tory party. There are people who still believe the lies of the Labour Party. They've been lying through their teeth right from the get-go. Everything that's come out of the Labour's mouth since they've been in power has been a lie. And look, see? They're actually doing all the good work for Labour. This is why I call them Praetorian Guard media. Shabana Mahmood is a new hard woman of British politics. What, because what she said one thing about immigration? Really? Good grief. This is war and a mess. So just go back twice. Meanwhile, remaining grooming gang boss offered £1,500 to leave UK while away trial for 10 rapes. The piece of shit, 30 years old, led the Eastern European network who raped, drugged and exploited vulnerable local women in Dundee. So now, if you want to come to this country, rape our women and girls, here's 1,500, shut up and get out of the country. And you can see this here from Sky News. This is when I say not all people at Sky News are idiots, because they actually do some good work. Listen to this. Sky News can exclusively reveal that in the summer of 2024, one in custody at HMP Perth awaiting trial for serial sex offences, note the date, right? Officials handed him a voluntary return from under a government scheme paying foreign nationals to leave Britain. The department later decided not to remove him because of the upcoming court proceedings. So that could have been under the Tory party, could have been? Could have been potentially, before they went out of power. So here we are, paying those people who rape your kids, who rape your women, money just to shut up and get out of the country. The same person can probably break into the country again and do the exact same thing again, get his paycheck and get out of the country again. You can see here. And this is what people, you see, when we're getting distracted by all this other garbage that's out in the social media circles, thankfully most people are the most voters are not in tune with all that. But if it comes to a point where this becomes very more effective, so social media can actually be a game changer when it comes to information flow for voters out there, this stuff needs to get out, but it doesn't. I've not seen anyone talk about this. The big big names, high profile people on social media talk about this story. And that does worry me. In another twist, just months later, as he stood in the High Court dock facing 10 rape charges, Sky News discovered that this piece of crap, I don't want to say his name, immigration status, which was due to expire, was automatically renewed under the EU settlement scheme. Automatically renewed under the EU settlement scheme. And the worst part about this, and you know, I'm not going to take this comment back, but quite frankly, it's just true. Because we know it's true in places like Rotherham and Oldham, Rochdale. People knew this was happening. People in those areas knew this was happening, but didn't say a word. You see, you criticise the police and social services all the time, which is true, you should criticise them. and you criticise the government, local councils, the government, local level, and the people in power for not doing a good job. I get all that. Let's not forget, people in these places don't say anything either, and it's happening in front of them. It was noted in Rotherham, places like Rotherham, girls have been picked up openly outside schools as well. So you've got to really question the parents as well on this. You're not protecting the children, guys. None of this shit will be happening in places like in the Middle East that often. Barely. Yeah, as long as they're stable, this shit doesn't happen. Doesn't make the Middle East great, by the way, I'm just making a point. That's because of parenting that this stuff doesn't happen. That's because of communities get together and say, none of this shit's gonna happen in our back door. You try anything like this, we'll see what we do to you. In this country, it's like, well, I can't say anything because I might offend somebody. That's the culture of the country today. And it goes to everything. The stabbings, terrorism, everything else. There you go. So these things are happening. They don't question the governments on this kind of stuff, even the previous government for that matter. Because these stories that come out like this, who do they benefit to? Benefit to reform. This is why the media now know they can't even try and take the arguing away from reform and hand it back to those in power, those particular in establishment, so no one's given them a chance to fight back. This is why Shabana Mahmood went to Denmark, which by the way is a left-wing government, has a tougher immigration stance than the Tories did. So we know it's got enough to do with left and right. And you guys keep getting caught up in all this nonsense about left-wing and right-wing all the time when it comes to migration. There are people who are left-wing who want control over our borders, by the way. There are plenty of them, I know. They're more than happy to vote for reform. You need to stop demonising them. So, that is that regarding UK. I was going to cover a short period because I want to give a bit more Russia, Ukraine, which is about this thing I'm hearing from the likes of Trump. Let me see if I can get it on the screen. You want to see my green mark on the screen? Let's see if I can get the article here. It might be on Sky News, maybe, or something there. I don't think it is, but I'll get the information from somewhere. No, it doesn't say anything like that here. Also, I've got it here somewhere, I'll find out. Whilst I look for this, I do find it funny that the British are complaining about Russia spying on them. And I think that's actually hilarious. Because what's so hilarious about it is that they're whining, complaining that fact that, wait a minute, don't you guys spy for Ukraine and give information to the likes of what do you call it? To the likes of Ukraine, spy on Russia, give it back to Ukraine, so end up killing the men of the Russian men, soldiers out there. I mean, I find it's hilarious that you're complaining about Russia supposedly, spying on you, and it's such an appalling thing when you guys do the exact same thing. It's war. What are you expecting? It's not unusual for it to happen. And on top of that, what's even worse is that you guys blew up, and they know they're involved in this. They don't want to come out and say it because obviously it's still being investigated. You guys are involved in destroying Nord Stream 2 pipeline. That is effectively a declaration of war on Russia. But you won't come out in a minute and say you were involved in it. Well, there were some Russians, some Ukrainians who got involved, and Russians might play the part too, apparently, in destroying their own pipeline, which is just stupid. It turns out there were Ukrainians involved. They magically got themselves into Poland without being seen. They magically went into the waters without being seen, because apparently you can spot all the Russians, and even the dolphins as well, that Russia used apparently, to spy on you. You can spot a dolphin, but you can't spot a group of men with explosives going into your waters, in your own waters, then going to Russia and other places, looking where this pipeline is, and find the right spot to blow up. We're not buying a balloon anymore. We're not. And of course, the same guy who accuses Russia of sabotage on the railways in Poland, that same guy is the one who celebrated, saying thank you NATO for doing what you did on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Effectively thanking America for it. I don't get how people are falling for this nonsense from the EU. You have to go and believe Russia at all. Ignore them. I'm not talking about them. What I'm talking about is what is actually happening and why it's not loading up for some reason. I've got a 28-point plan now. I'll show the screen in a second. What I don't understand is why you keep believing everything that comes out of their mouths in the West. Forget Russia. You have to believe anything they say. Don't. I'm asking you to. That's all. In fact, you can call them absolute garbage, both of them. But to come out and think that, well, yeah, I mean, there must be a, what do you call it? Okay, what is going on here? What is going on? This AI stuff is really getting my nerves. I haven't got on the screen now, just go to the screen too. There we go. You can probably barely see it, but I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Oh, God, what is going on? Let's get rid of this. No, I don't want to try now. Bugger off, AI. Leave me alone. Stop looking at my data. Stop stealing my data as well when you're at it. And on there it says, oh, Microsoft was in the stream. Actually, I'll tell you what, I'll do a short video instead. Do a short video. Let's get on with this. Right. This is why it's so laughable, this. It says here, 28 points of the US peace plan published by Ukrainian MP Hocharenko. Okay. It says here, confirmation of Ukraine's sovereignty. Really? I mean, that's on the top of the list. I'm glad you got that one in there. Ukraine receives security guarantees from the US, but with conditions. That doesn't make any sense, because you have to give them security guarantees, there must be no conditions. What would be the conditions exactly then? Let's see if they mention that later on. They obviously don't, according to this. Ukraine enshrines non-alignment and rejection of NATO and the Constitution. NATO confirms Ukraine's non-membership forever. That's not going to happen. In fact, Russia only asked that for about 10 years, by the way. Not forever. The size of the armed forces of Ukraine is limited. Ukraine remains a non-nuclear state. So some of these Russia already told you they won, but you decided to reject them before and then tell Zelensky not to agree to them. Territorial issues. Crimea, Donetsk and Luhansk are recognized de facto as Russian. Kherson, Zaporizhia are frozen line of contact. Okay, well, number one, if you want the first point to happen, which is the Crimea, Donetsk and Luhansk are recognized de facto as Russian, you can't do it by de facto, because the irony is you're asking Zelensky to be a dictator then. He has to run it by a parliament, Verkhovna Rada, followed by a constitutional amendment to Ukraine's constitution, then approved by the courts. I mean, for all the talk that Americans have their political system in place with the public, checks and balances, they're effectively asking Ukraine to become a dictatorship at this point. You can't have it both ways. Sorry. Part of the territories become a demilitarized buffer zone under de facto Russian control. Both sides commit not to change borders by force. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Military agreements. NATO has not deployed troops in Ukraine. Well, which is it then? Because all European countries committed to putting troops on the ground in Ukraine. They said they're going to do this. NATO fighters are deployed in Poland. Why in Poland? That doesn't make any sense. Why do you want to put them in Poland for? What would be the purpose of that? Exactly. Poland are part of NATO, they have their own army. It's actually a pretty good army they've got there. So what are you even talking about putting NATO fighters in Poland? Didn't Russia just say they would draw away from our borderline? And they're saying, well, we're not going to put them in Ukraine, we're going to put them in Poland instead. This is why it's a mess. This whole thing is just absolutely got. This is what Russia laughing at this right now. Russia's playing along. They're taking more towns and villages. They're going to take some key places in the next coming week, a few weeks coming up. Provgorsk has already pretty much been taken. Volgograd. They're probably going to take Seversk at some point soon. Krasny Liman is a key area too. I mean, this is no joke. Not to mention that people are dying on Ukraine's side for no reason. Security dialogue between the US, NATO and Russia, creation of a US-Russian working group. You pretty much have that in place right now, just that's behind the scenes. You don't really talk about it in front of the camera. Russia legally fixes a policy of non-aggression towards Ukraine and Europe. Russia doesn't... sorry, who's declared war on who here? We're not at war with each other. America. Where you bring this from? Why do you need to pass an actual policy which requires a legal binding document? What have Russia said to you from day one? We want a legal binding document that has an agreement between the two sides. They've said this to you from day one. Non-aggression. You're the ones putting sanctions on Russia. That's what you're doing. You're trying to destroy their economy. You're trying to destroy their country as a whole. But Russia has to put a non-aggression policy towards you two? Between Ukraine and Europe as well? What an absolute mess this document is so far. We're halfway through now. Point number 4. Economic block in Ukraine's recovery. The US and Europe launched a large investment package for Ukraine's recovery. Of course, that's what you did. You got the country screwed up and you want to profit from it. You did the exact same thing in Iraq. You did the exact same in Libya. Of course, you lost out in Libya. You did the exact same thing in Syria. You're going to try and profit from that too. Afghanistan, you're doing it to an extent too as well. For you, it's all about profiteering. It's got nothing to do with democracy, nothing to do with freedom, nothing to do with making states independent. You're trying to make states dependent on you. That's what American foreign policy is. 100 billion of frozen Russian assets for Ukraine's recovery. The US receives 50% of the income. Are you absolutely kidding me? So you're saying to Russia, sorry for all the sanctions we put on you, and we want a new deal here, but you know we're going to take your assets and steal them. And the US is going to take half of it. Europe adds another 100 billion, money we don't have. Other frozen Russian assets will go to joint US-Russian projects. Hold on. That's Russia's money. That's Russia's assets. Nothing to do with you. What, there have to be conditions on their own assets? So you're trying to say Ukraine, we have to give a chunk of your land to Russia, meanwhile we're going to try and strangle them economically. No wonder Russia are laughing at you with this. They're saying, we have no idea what you're talking about, this secret deal. They just threw this one in there to see how to react to it, of course. That has to be the objective here. They can't be serious about this. They cannot be serious about this. The creation of a Ukraine Development Fund, investments in infrastructure, resources, and technology, as I said before. This is all about profiteering on the backs of Ukrainians. Russia in the world system. Gradual lifting of sanctions. Russia returned to the G8. Long-term economic cooperation with the US and Russia. What do you mean gradual lifting of sanctions? How big are the sanctions? Why should it be gradual? If you're asking Russia to pay a price here, which they have to, because you're saying you have to freeze all the lines on the Zaporizhzhia and Kherson. Why should I freeze the lines there? Why? Humanitarian issues, exchange all for all, return of civilians and children. Humanitarian programs, family reunifications, educational programs on tolerance. So who's these educational programs going to come from though? Shouldn't Ukraine decide that? Rejection of Nazi ideology. So everything Russia's been telling you from day one about this, you decide to ignore them, claim conspiracy theories. Your defense was that Zelensky's Jewish. I have no idea why they brought that up. To begin with, there's nothing to do with that at all. Now you're saying it's all good now. Energy and special facility. This one's the biggest joke of all. Launch of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant under IAEA supervision. Electricity split 50-50 between Ukraine and Russia. Obviously Trump has nothing to do with this document, but his administration is the most dumbest administration, even dumber than the Bush administration and Obama administration put together. They're the dumbest administration on this planet. Why would Russia give up a nuclear power plant to you? Because it says here, the US helps restore Ukrainian gas infrastructure. Again, you're going to be doing that for what? For profiteering. Internal political process in Ukraine, election 100 days after signing the agreement, full amnesty for all participants in the war. Why? People that shouldn't commit war crimes, Russia could have won their heads for their war crimes they're committing against those in the east of the country. Implementation and control. The agreement is legally binding. Control is exercised by Peace Council led by Donald Trump. What a joke. That's what it was all about in the end, guys. He wants his name on the package. That's what it was. Violations, sanctions. After signing, immediate ceasefire and withdrawal to agreed positions. After signing, so he's saying that as soon as they sign it, Ukraine has to withdraw from Donetsk and Lugansk. And also here, and they talk about the territory. You see, the contradiction here is this: Ukraine's sovereignty. But Ukraine's sovereignty means the entire land of Ukraine, which also includes Crimea. You're saying de facto is Russian recognized. Who recognized them? God, United States? Ukraine recognized them as Russian? Kherson and Zaporizhia are the further line of contact. You didn't mention Kharkov, or Kharkiv region. Made no mention of that at all. Russia have some land, have caught some territory in that land, in that part of the region. This is why it's such an absolute mess. Absolute mess. Absolute mess. There we are. Can't see anything else from there. All I know of this information is just that Andriy Yermak, who's the right-hand man of Zelensky, went to UK to try and meet with Zaluzny, and he said to him to go and do one, basically. Doesn't want to talk to him. Other latest information, let's see here. It says the US expects Zelensky to sign Washington's proposal plan for Ukraine by 27th November, writes Financial Times. He's given 1 week to sign it, basically. Before that, does say here, Moscow does not see any genuine desire on part of Kiev to sit down and negotiate to discuss key provisions for resolving the crisis. Basically, the threat there is for Zelensky, they say by the 27th of November, just so you understand. This is actually more to do with the fact that they're going after him on the corruption scandal. There's so many corruption scandals I lost track, of course, like most people have. But that's the reason why they're going on this. So they can say, well, if you don't sign this by the 20th of November, we're going to double down on this, and we're going to put more pressure on you and get people to talk. Because there's a lot of corruption which ties up to Zelensky himself, supposedly. Apparently, that's from what I read. I believe that's exactly where the pressure's coming from. They're saying some of the stuff is red lines for them as well. For Ukraine, that is. There we have it. So, that's in the stream. There's unusual for me to do on streams today, or even present day, because it's just getting a bit late, a bit difficult to do. I'll try to do more short videos, and more short videos coming up. And maybe another stream next week, but probably in the weekend. Or maybe this Saturday, we'll see what happens, but it's difficult to do it, it's just timing. So do check out the Telegram channel for all the latest news on Ukraine and Russia. You can find a lot of Telegram channels online that do a great job, which are, if you go to t.me/thenationstate, you'll find a lot there. You can also find me on Twitter, which I don't use as often as I used to, because I think it's garbage. The username is UKRRUS News.